Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today with this Botanic Envelope Card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. These are new products from the May 2020 release. I'm going to start with this background new set, which is that beautiful scallop there. We're going to add some inking and stenciling, and then we're going to build the adorable botanic envelope filled with lots of florals, and I'm using a combination of florals from the Botanic Envelope as well as the new Stems and Sprigs stamp set. We're going to start by die cutting the Mama Elephant Frilly Window Creative Cuts die from smooth white cardstock, and then we're going to take a Trinity Stamps rectangle foundation stencil and mask off part of the area on our background, inking it with Pinkfresh Studio Sky Blue and Summer Shower inks. I'm going to concentrate the majority of my blue color down near the bottom of the panel, just gradually building up that color very, very slowly and blending these two light blue colors together for a subtle background. Foundation stencils or masking stencils like this make creating beautiful framed up backgrounds so easy. Next, without removing our stencil, we are going to take the Heffy Doodle brick by brick stencil and some grit paste and add some texture. So I'm simply adhering this over the top, and I was going to just use some tape to start with, and I actually ended up taking a little bit of pixie spray and spraying it all over the back of my stencil so that it stayed put a little bit better since it's so delicate. Now, one of the things about the grit paste and the look I was going for, and the reason I used grit paste, is that I want it to look a little messy. I don't want it to be exactly perfect. I'm not going to add the product to every little nook and cranny. I want it to definitely have a little bit more of a brick-like texture. As you can see there, I'm scraping off quite a bit. I did not cover the whole thing. And then I am going to go ahead and remove my stencil, both of them, and let my background completely dry. I am moving or working fairly quickly as I want to go get and remove that grit paste from my stencils as soon as possible, as well as my palette knife. Look how fun that texture is then on the background. Just a really great, easy way to add some fun texture and a fun and interesting background to a card. Using the Mama Elephant Botanic Envelope, I am going to die cut the envelope and some leaves from this from smooth white cardstock and add color to all of these components with my inks. Adding, some Summer Shower ink from Pinkfresh Studio, I'm going to very, very lightly ink up the envelope base. We're going to only add a little touch of color. I don't want it to be super dark. And then for the layering pieces for our botanic envelope, we're actually going to take Seaside ink and ink these up with a little bit deeper, bluer color of ink. These are awesome because you take them and you layer them over the envelope to give it all of that fantastic detail. We're going to do that for the other piece, and then I'm going to use some craft tweezers and liquid glue to glue these components in place. I am working on my glass work surface, so it's very easy to take a microfiber cloth and clean up any of that ink before moving on to the next step of my card. The tweezers are such a fantastic addition to your craft stash as they hold on to small delicate pieces like these little layering pieces for the botanic envelope so easily. Little accents, any little thing that you need to pick up. I love working with die cuts, and tweezers make working with them so much easier. So there are all our little layering pieces. And you can see you can very easily tuck your florals into that awesome little pocket. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my envelope and place it in my MISTI and take a sentiment from the Mama Elephant Stems and Sprigs stamp set. In addition to the beautiful florals and leaves in this set, there are also some amazing sentiments. It's so pretty. I love the mix of fonts on these and the size. So I'm going to stamp Special Delivery to You with All My Love from that Stems and Sprigs stamp set right there on my envelope, using that dark Seaside Pinkfresh Studio Blue ink. Everything is very tone on tone and goes together really great. I'm using the MISTI so that I can stamp it more than once to get the perfect stamped impression. And there is our adorable little envelope. So, so cute. We're going to add some color then to our botanicals here, to all these leaves, using for the majority of the pieces a combination of Pinkfresh Studio Mint and Meadow ink, and then for my darker leaves we're going to use a little Emerald City. The names are so much fun. To hold on to small die cut pieces while you are inking them, I love using a little piece of, or a little scrap of tape. Just press those into the low tack tape and then ink up your die cuts. This helps keep them in place while you're working with them. I'm again using a blender brush to add the lighter color of ink first, and then we will blend in a little bit of the darker color. So that's Mint and Meadow for these pieces right here. Keep in mind that these are dye inks. As they dry and are absorbed into the cardstock, they are going to smooth out and lighten just a bit. And then for the darker, longer green sprigs, we're going to take a little Emerald City ink and ink those up. I'm going to use the same piece of tape. And these are a little more delicate, so I did more, instead of more of a blending motion, I did more of a pouncing motion. And then we'll go ahead and set those aside, clean up our work surface a little bit, and stamp the florals from Stems and Sprigs on some Bristol Smooth cardstock using Lawn Fawn Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink. And that way we can color these in with a no-line kind of look, which I think helps make the florals blend in or work with the rest of our design really nicely. So I've got my 4 florals. These are from the Stems and Sprigs set, and we are going to start with green and light green ink and color in the stems of our flowers. I went ahead and did all of the stems first, and then I will add color to the flowers. My goal with this design was to add a lot of color and kind of have rainbow color. So our blues are very much showcased or represented in our background and our envelope. And then of course we have all of the greenery. And so to finish and kind of round out my floral or botanic rainbow, I'm going to have a pink flower, a red flower, a yellowish orange flower, and a purple flower. My pink flower is colored with peach pink and sugared almond pink Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, pardon me. And I like to trace out the design with a darker color, and then I'm using kind of a feathering motion to color in or add texture to that flower. If you kind of don't like the texture, and I had that happen a couple times while coloring here, I would just blend it all out with my lighter color and then go back in with darker colors to add that texture back in. And I did this several times. These are fairly dainty, smaller images. It can be a little bit more work, I guess, at least for me. Sometimes the smaller and daintier those flower petals, the more work it takes to kind of use a tiny little stroke with the tip of your marker to get that detail. This is bright yellow and yellow used for the next flower, which is one of my favorite color combinations. And this blends out a lot. I'm actually going to let this sit and dry a little bit, and then come back to all of my flowers and take a darker color and add in some extra detail. These are water-based markers, so they are going to stay wet for a while. The purple gave me the most trouble. I don't know if it was the flower or just the colors, but I went in with violet first, and then I'm going to blend out with light violet, and I just really struggled with this one in particular. So I ended up blending it all out and kind of going over it multiple times. Luckily, on the Bristol Smooth cardstock, you are able to do that. I definitely would maybe let it dry a little bit after you've blended and colored the first time or so. But I ended up with something, pardon me, that I didn't totally hate by the time I was done. But this flower definitely gave me the most trouble. Not sure why. But love how these beautiful flowers turned out. You can really see in the yellow and the pink the detail. Trying to use a tiny little feathering strokes with the tip of my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, and what fun that gives these designs. Our final flower is going to be red and light carmine. And the red, while I felt like this one also gave me a little bit of trouble, ended up being maybe my favorite flower. I think what really brought this home and made it my favorite was taking deep red finally and blending that in at the very end. And that's one of the colors that I was talking about earlier, where I actually went in and added a deeper, darker color to add some great texture. And I think it made the world of difference in these flowers. So we've got a beautiful little rainbow of flowers here. Here is my deeper, darker red. And you're really going to start to notice just kind of that great shadowing, especially down near the center of the flower, just in some little areas. I definitely didn't go over the entire flower. Just tried to add in some great shadowing and shading. And then we're going to do that with our purple flower. For the pink flower, I used red as my as the marker to add in some of that shading, and then I used an orange marker on the yellow orange bloom, or scarlet red, pardon me, not orange. I use scarlet red, which often is one of my very favorites as far as an orange. And again, I really think it worked super well for this one. And you can maybe even see the detail a little bit better in the video. Then we're going to take the coordinating stems and sprigs dies and die cut these floral blooms before we assemble everything and adhere it into our botanic pocket or our botanic envelope. The key to this, I really feel like, is to kind of work with your placement a little bit first, kind of figure out where you want to put your 4 blooms, and then start tucking in your greenery from there, and then start adhering things. And I wouldn't use a ton of glue, just a little bit here and there. Try to work your way from the back forward. You can always tuck some additional greenery in down near the base of the envelope if you need to fill it in. And I knew pretty quickly, even before I started assembling anything here, that I was going to need some additional greenery, because I have everything in except for those 2 individual leaves, and I knew right away that I wanted it to be much fuller, but I didn't necessarily want to add more blooms, and greenery is a fantastic way to do that. I really kind of think of it as floral design a little bit, just where you want the flowers to be the great pops of color, but you want to have those little bits of greenery all around to make it really full. So I'm starting here very, very carefully adding my blooms. And I'm so sorry. Apparently we're going to have some severe weather and I didn't have my phone on silent. And then we're just going to tuck all of these little bits and pieces in. And you can kind of see I've spaced out my flowers, and then I'm tucking in taller greenery in the back and some shorter greenery down near the fronts and the sides and hanging out the sides, filling it all in. These little individual leaves are a great little layering tool as well, if you just need to add some little touches of green here and there. Once I have everything in place, I'm going to flip it over, adhere some foam tape to the back of the envelope to give this a little dimension onto my bricked background, and then pop that down in place right over that awesome stenciled frilly window panel background. And that background really just helps make the botanic envelope shine. The final thing I'm going to do for my card today is I want to add a little embellishment to my envelope. So I'm going to take one of those little red clay heart embellishments, which if you guys follow me already, you probably already know that I love these. I think they are such a great little finishing touch, and I use them on a great majority of my cards because I love the little size, and I love a little heart, and especially a little red heart. And we're going to glue that right above the special delivery on the envelope and add that little touch there. Then we're going to glue this whole panel to a white top fold card base, and that is just going to finish it off beautifully. And I think I maybe added that heart off camera, but I did want to mention that because I think even though it's such a teeny tiny little thing, it makes such a difference. Now, I did notice that I accidentally got some ink around the edges of my panel. I'm taking a sand eraser and erasing that ink. I think I had ink on my finger, and I touched the outside white edge of that scallop and transferred the ink. If you ever have that happen, a sand eraser is a fantastic tool to have in your craft stash. And here is the finished card with that cute little red heart. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Botanic Envelope card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.